is more user-friendly that way.
Okay, and is that the goal? What's the end goal for the transit department? What are you trying to accomplish? Higher ridership levels or more convenience? What's the objective?
It's a combination, I think, Randy. Certainly the more attractive we are and the more comfortable we are for people, the more safe we feel, the more people will choose this as an alternative.
Okay.
And so, part of our obligation to the community, I think, is to do everything we can to, number one, be safe above all things, whether it's the way we operate buses, whether it's the way we design routes, whether it's where we place stops and things like that, or whether it's sort of the oversight of all those things. Okay. So we focus on that first. But I think the other part of that is when people have information about what's happening, they respond differently to a product. And so if we can give more information, eventually the technology is going to, you might have a wristwatch or a phone, you can just dial up the transit system and it'll tell you the next bus coming through on your route.
That would be outstanding.
So instead of leaving your office and going down and standing, at the corner, or someone leaving their home and standing and wondering, okay, did I just miss it? Did I make it? They've got real-time information to access. And so we're moving in that direction. We have automatic vehicle locator system aboard our buses now, which gives us that capability in dispatch. And we're using that in our customer service office, but we'd like to deploy that differently and eventually be accessible to anyone that has, either a computer at home or in their office or uses a PDA of some kind.
Cell phone, BlackBerry, iPhone, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, that would be outstanding. Talking about air quality benefits as well, in a previous conversation, we discussed that the buses have capacity to carry bicycles on front racks on the vehicles, and that capacity is expanding now with some of the new buses that you're bringing online.
It's our intent to do everything we can to expand the capacity for bicycles aboard our buses. So part of what we're doing is we're in the process of converting what were 2 bicycle location racks to 3.
Okay.
And as we develop other products, because we're working on a product called Bus Rapid Transit, buses may actually come on board the bus rather than have to be hung on the front of the bus.
Oh, really?
And that will be more convenient for our customers and more convenient for the rest of the passengers because, again, the dwell time would be minimized and we can travel.
And dwell time being the amount of time that the bus has to stop at the stop to allow people to get on and off and bikes to get taken off and those types of things?
The thing we deal with as a negative in the industry, if I can put it that way, is that people perceive that the bus is much slower than the automobile. So the more we can get it through intersections and the more we can reduce the time at bus stops, the faster from point A to B it will travel. And so bikes is part of that, wheelchair access is part of that, certainly fare collection systems and some of those things are part of that. Okay. So we're always looking at how we can improve that.
Good. Now you mentioned Bus Rapid Transit, BRT. Talk about that a little bit more. What's the vision?
Well, Bus Rapid Transit is meant to be a rubber-tired version of light rail in a sense. We're looking at corridors on Blackstone and Kings Canyon Ventura as 2 initial corridors for the potential of Bus Rapid Transit. Okay. And the rapid in there is partially about having a priority at signals. So the bus, as it approaches a signal, it's flashing that it's approaching, and the signal reads that and says, okay, I'll stay green a little longer, or I'll turn green a little sooner. So that reduces the time bus sits there, as well as having at-grade boarding like light rail, so rather than having to deploy a lift or anything, your stops are brought up to the base level of the bus and people roll on, roll off just like you would on a light rail platform. Okay. Other things, off-board fare collection, corridors where it's clearly marked for bus only to run so that we don't get stuck in some of the traffic things we might otherwise get stuck in. So we're looking at all of those things. Certainly we'll be looking at enhanced vehicles and some other things to go with that. But
great. Now, what kind of public outreach is being done? How is the community weighing in on what the goals and plans are for FACTS in the future?
We have been holding what I would call community information meetings. Typically, they're topic-oriented. We've had a number on Bus Rapid Transit, but the mayor has created, in essence, what we call a Transit Rates and Services Committee.
Okay.
And they're in the process of appointing people to that committee. But along with staff, the committee will look at what's the right fare structure for the system and maybe the fare mechanisms that we use to collect fares, as well as to look out into the future and say, is the route structure efficient as it stands, or could we make these adjustments to get a better bang for the investment buck? I think the other thing is when there are difficult decisions about the performance of some routes, when you know you could invest that differently somewhere else, maybe more frequency on one route versus another, that committee can walk through that with us. We can look at the statistics and read what's going on there.
So it sounds like public input is very important to you.
I think it's critical for transit specifically, but I think in public sector in general to have the public you're serving involved in it. So we're working hard to improve in that area.
Excellent. Another area that I'm aware that you're working on is transit safety, the safety of passengers on the buses, and some legislation was passed in Sacramento not too long ago that addressed that. Can you speak to that issue a little bit?
Yes, there was a state bill 1561 that was passed that basically created a test project for Sacramento Regional Transit District and Fresno Area Express. And that is one that basically focuses on the behavior of individuals aboard the bus or at bus-related facilities. And so if someone is acting out on the bus continually, they can be banned for 30 days to a year, depending on what kind of behavior and conduct they have. So it gives the transit system a process to go through to say, if you're offending other passengers by your behavior or somehow inhibiting the transit service, you may not get to use it for a period of time.
Okay.
We're reaching out right now with that program to start talking to the schools and the social service agencies. We've had them substantially involved in the development of it. And so it's a program that I think will give people a sense of more security aboard the buses.
Okay. That's
I
great.
think the lighting piece I talked about earlier is another safety. And then something I'd like to mention is we're transitioning with cameras. We've had an old, outdated camera system on about half of our buses. We're actually, we've been the benefactor of a couple of grants to upgrade those. Eventually, on the entire system, every bus will have 8 camera positions. Partially, it protects individuals using our buses and helps us see what behavior is going on, but substantially it also protects the city's investment, because oftentimes an accident occurs and somebody's pointing the finger at you and they're pointing back, and you don't know. These cameras will help read what the conditions were at the time, what the signals were, what was going on.
Wow,
so
excellent.
It's a fun project too.
Technology to the rescue.
Yeah.
Real quick, we only have a minute left, but for someone who maybe hasn't tried the transit system yet, hasn't ridden FACTS, what do you recommend? How do you get yourself familiar with what's available and try out the service? How would you suggest someone go about doing that?
Well, we do have we're more than willing to coach someone through it. If they'd like to call us, we'd be glad to take someone through it. We have what we call a ride guide, and it explains the fare, how to pay your fare, and all those pieces, and it has all the information on the route. But you can call 621-RIDE, that's 621-7433, and you can have an operator walk you through that as well and explain the system. Okay. I think, when if I were getting aboard the bus for the first time, I just admit this is my first trip. Am I paying this fare properly? And, the drivers are more than welcome, or, they're willing, I should say, to walk you through that and really welcome you aboard the bus. So
okay.
I say try it, see if it works.
Very good. Well, I hope people will do that. I know you've got a good ridership base now, but we'd like to see it continue to expand for all the reasons that we discussed at the beginning. Helps air quality, helps reduce costs for commutes and other benefits. So, yes. Ken, thanks for being here. We'll look forward to having you on a future edition of Fresno CityVision.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you for joining us on this edition of Fresno CityVision as well. And we'll be back next time. So I'm Randy Reed. Thanks for joining us.